Hello guys, and welcome to this Bellator 218 betting analysis video where I go through the two fights from Bellator 218 that are available for betting from a betting perspective. I'll break them down, I'll talk about them, and I'll give you some betting advice about these two fights. Now, I am sorry, I am talking very quietly into the mic, and that is because it's currently 5 AM here in the UK on fight day for Bellator. Bellator 218 starts in almost exactly 22 hours from now, and if you're wondering why I'm up this early on a Friday morning, I'm actually not up early at all. I haven't been to bed, so as a professional gambler I earn the majority of my money through live betting on MMA, particularly the UFC. So in order to make sure that I'm really sharp and wide awake during the UFC fights, which, you know, the main cards don't start over here in the UK until like 3 AM, what I tend to do is I always stay up really late on a Thursday. Stay up, all Thursday night into Friday morning. Go to bed usually about 5 or 6 AM Friday morning, and I'll stay in bed until like 3-4 PM on Friday. Stay up all night, then live bet Bellator, which starts at around 3 AM UK time, and then I'll go into the same sleep cycle, sleep into like 3-4 PM on Saturday, wake up, and then stay up right the way through the night then to live bet on the UFC. So that is why I'm talking a little bit quiet. Don't want to wake my missus and my kid up who are in bed. But without further ado, let's jump into these fights on Bellator 218. So the first fight that I want to talk about is the main event between Emmanuel Sanchez and Georgi Karakhanyan. Now, the first thing that I want to say, I will just play some footage of Karakhanyan in the background for you to watch while I'm talking. First thing that I'll say is that both these guys fought back in 2017, and it was a very, very competitive fight. Emmanuel Sanchez ended up winning the fight by majority decision, but there were a few moments where, the fight really did come down to the odd scramble. It's available to watch online for you to check it out. I recommend checking it out if you're thinking of betting this fight, because to be honest with you, the current odds on the fight, with Emmanuel Sanchez being a big favourite, they don't really tell the story at all about how the first fight played out. Like I say, it was contested on the ground for the majority of the fight. There were lots of different positional exchanges, momentum swings, and on another night Karakhanyan could quite easily have won. So when I saw the odds and I found that, Sanchez was a really big favourite, I couldn't understand why, because the first fight was so competitive. So straight away I thought that Karakhanyan might have been a good bet. Unfortunately, when I dug a little bit deeper into this matchup, it turns out that Emmanuel Sanchez was scheduled to fight Ashley Grimshaw. So Karakhanyan's actually taking this fight on just 2 weeks notice. And in this interview here from Fight Week, which you can go and check out on MMA Junkie's YouTube channel, Karakhanyan actually, says that he took the fight on 2 weeks notice. He's currently homeless while he's moving around, sorting his life out, moving between different training camps. And he also said in this video that, he kind of alluded to the fact that he was taking this fight as a favour to help out Scott Coker, because Scott Coker needed a late replacement for Emmanuel Sanchez. And Karakhanyan alludes to the fact that by doing Scott Coker a favour, he got given a new contract with Bellator and paid more money. So this could be, I'm concerned that this could be one of those situations where a fighter has felt pressured into taking a fight on short notice for financial gain. Karakhanyan was quite open about the fact that he likes his new contract with Bellator, and quite open about the fact that he was able to get that new contract on the back of accepting this fight on just 2 weeks notice. So that is a little bit of a concern. So it's a bit frustrating, because based on their last fight, Karakhanyan would be an incredible bet at these odds. Odds are around 3.70, give him an implied probability of 27%, which is obviously very low. But what I would say about this matchup is that Emmanuel Sanchez fights at such a high pace. He constantly pushes the pace, he constantly pushes the action, that he's really not the kind of guy that you want to be going up against on short notice if you're not fully in shape, because he fights at a relentless pace and he will push you to your limit for the full 15 minutes. He's very active. Now, from a striking point of view, there's no doubt about it that Emmanuel Sanchez is the better striker, but unfortunately he's probably not going to get a chance to show off his skills when it comes to striking, because Karakhanyan is a strong grappler, strong wrestler. You're kind of seeing that here in the footage playing in the background, and Sanchez has terrible takedown defense. You know, I don't think I've ever really seen Sanchez stuff a takedown. Doesn't take much to put him on the ground, but when he is on the ground, he's very good at improving position, creating scrambles, forcing his opponent to work very hard to maintain position, and that's one of the reasons why their first fight was very close. You know, Karakhanyan was the guy taking the fight to the ground, but Sanchez was able to make him work very hard, and the first fight was basically chaos. There was just lots of momentum swings, lots of positional changes, and both guys had some success on the ground. So neither guy is particularly dangerous when it comes to striking, to be honest with you. And both guys are more than happy for this fight to be on the ground. So don't see a knockout as being too likely in this matchup. This fight probably will end up on the ground. Loads of grappling exchanges, loads of momentum swings, and someone's going to win a decision. And with Karakhanyan taking the fight on just 2 weeks' notice, you know, it would be hard to trust him with your money. So what I would say about this fight, guys, is you know, if we look at this fight from a betting perspective, Emmanuel Sanchez currently around about 1.31 favourite, giving him an implied probability of 76%. To find any value on Sanchez at all, you'd have to give him an 81% chance or better of winning. There's just no way that you can do that. Sanchez is an easy pass for me. And whether you bet on Karakhanyan or not really depends on your risk tolerance. You know, a guy in my position, I need to make money from gambling to pay the bills every month. I'm not going to bet on a fighter taking a fight on 2 weeks' notice against a guy that we know will push him to his limit and fight at a high pace. Although, if both guys did show up on the back of a full training camp, I do think this fight would be close to 60-40 in favour of Emmanuel Sanchez, based on how their first fight played out, based on how they've looked since that fight. So, is there value on Karakhanyan here? Maybe a little bit, but it all depends on you personally as an individual bettor. Are you happy to bet on a guy who's taking a fight on 2 weeks' notice? I would recommend that if you're thinking of betting this fight, definitely pass on Sanchez. Check out Karakhanyan's Fight Week interview on the MMA Junkie YouTube channel. Listen to what he says and just basically, you know, work out whether you feel comfortable betting money on a guy in that position that may just be taking this fight for a paycheck. And to do the boss a favour, we've all been in that position. So now we move on to the second fight of the co-main event, the other fight that we can bet on here. There's only 2 fights available for betting, and that's going to be Vassell against Valentin Moldavsky. Now, I do want to show you some footage of both these guys, but we'll kick off this breakdown by talking about the fact that Vassell's actually moving up to heavyweight for the first time in this matchup, and as you can see in this clip here from today's Bellator 218 weigh-in, he is looking jacked. Vassell looking very, very good indeed. I've watched his Fight Week interviews, and he has said that he feels great at heavyweight. He said he had to diet very hard to get down to 205, the light heavyweight limit that he's been fighting at for the majority of his career. And it's no surprise really, because if you look at Vassell, he is 6 foot tall with an 82-inch reach, so he is a very big boy. And that frame, that giant wingspan, does mean, as you can see here in the weigh-in, that he does have a bit of a side advantage over Moldavsky. You can see definitely much taller than him, and with Moldavsky, his reach isn't actually listed on Tapology, but there you can see as they stand next to each other, Vassell looking jacked, Vassell looking very good at heavyweight, and no doubt that he's got a size advantage here. So as I talk more about this fight, let's just leave some footage of Moldavsky running in the background. This is from one of his recent fights against Ernest James. This was actually his last fight, I believe, which took place back in the summer, back in July. So just leave this running in the background. So the size advantage for Vassell could could play into this fight. Not only is he, quite a little bit taller with what looks like could be quite a long reach advantage, although we don't know for sure. He's also weighed in 10 pounds heavier than Moldavsky, so if these guys get into some clinch exchanges or grappling exchanges on the ground, that weight could give Vassell an edge. But also, with this being Vassell's first fight at heavyweight, we don't know how his cardio is going to hold up carrying all that extra weight or that extra muscle. What I would say about Moldavsky is that we've seen him fight several times at heavyweight, and his cardio has never been an issue. He can fight at a high pace for 3 rounds, no problem. Same can't be said about Vassell fighting a heavyweight. If he hasn't been, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. If you look at the fight week interviews with Vassell, he said that he had to diet extremely hard to make the light heavyweight limit at 205 pounds. And now that he's carrying that extra weight, and perhaps he isn't eating as good now that he's fighting at heavyweight and not cutting any weight at all, weighing in at about 245 pounds, will that have a negative effect on his cardio? It's definitely possible. So, what I would say about both these guys is neither guy is particularly dangerous standing. You're kind of seeing that from Moldavsky here. He's a tough Russian. He's obviously got a Sambo background, but doesn't really carry particularly heavy hands, and also struggles to close the distance as well and land any significant shots. You'll see quite a lot of his punches falling short, and he's not really a comfortable striker, which you can kind of see in this clip that I'm showing you. If we move back into a part of the fight where these guys are in open striking exchanges, here you can see them in kickboxing range in the center of the cage. And with Moldavsky being a heavyweight, he doesn't really carry that much power in his hands for a heavyweight, not that technical either. You can tell he's not a comfortable striker, but at the age of just 27 years old, he's going to be making big improvements from fight to fight. But you can also see on his record that 1, 2, 3, 4 of his last 5 fights have gone the distance, and from the footage I'm showing you here, you can see that Moldavsky doesn't look that dangerous standing. Vassell isn't that dangerous standing either. If we check out his record, he's got a bunch of fights that have gone the distance. His only win inside the distance in the last 3 or 4 years was by arm triangle against Liam McGeary. He's been finished twice in his last 2 fights. I say the other fights have gone a distance, so Vassell not particularly dangerous standing either. What I would say about Vassell, and you're going to see it in a moment in some footage that I play of Vassell, is that being 6'4", he does suffer from, one of the problems that a lot of tall guys face, abnormally tall guys, is that he doesn't have the best striking defense. Doesn't really use much head movement. His chin is always, high up and exposed. So if Moldavsky really decided to start sitting down on some of his shots, really started, working his way into boxing range and throwing some bombs, definitely a possibility that he could land big and hard on Vassell. And that's basically how Phil Davis was able to land the head kick and get the knockout win. In fact, I'll show you that now. We'll move on to that fight. We'll pause that in case you want to go back to it. But what I would say about this fight, guys, is both these fighters are primarily grapplers. But what's interesting is that they both have really good takedown defense, but neither of them is the best offensive wrestler. I would definitely give the edge to Linton Vassell when it comes to offensive wrestling, which is interesting because he's British. You would expect him to really struggle with his offensive wrestling compared to a Russian Sambo guy. But Vassell has trained in America, in Florida, Henry Hooft's Combat Academy for the vast majority of his career, and he is a very strong wrestler, especially for a British fighter, especially for a tall guy. And we're going to see some of that in this clip, in this video from his last fight against Phil Davis. So the first thing that I want to show you is that he's got excellent takedown defense. Here you'll see Phil Davis shoot a takedown any second now. It's actually Vassell that initiates the takedown, but by doing that, he enables Phil Davis to get a full body lock in play and drag him to the ground. But Vassell does a really, really good job. When he gets taken down, he doesn't allow his opponent to establish a dominant position. He easily uses his leg to get a reversal there and scramble back to his feet. And as soon as Vassell is back to his feet, you see him working very, very hard here for underhooks, which makes it very difficult for Davis to complete a takedown. So you see Vassell, very educated grappler. We know that Phil Davis's top game is extremely heavy, and not many guys have been able to back Phil Davis off as easily as Vassell did there when he was taken down. And that wasn't just a one-off. If we go deeper into this fight, we'll just show you a little bit of Vassell's striking defense, I guess. You know, this probably isn't the best fight to highlight the fact that Vassell hasn't got the best striking defense, because Phil Davis doesn't really have any boxing. He's not that dangerous with his hands either. But you can kind of see just from the way that Vassell's standing, you know, as he threw that right hook there, just kind of throwing it with his chin up high and exposed, and you just see here Vassell's head isn't really moving that much. He's a bit of a stationary target, so if his opponent and he fights with his hands low as well, so if his opponent, you know, really committed to a shot, stepped in the boxing range, sat down on a punch, there's definitely a possibility that you could knock Vassell out. And if you watch some of his past fights, you'll see that doesn't have the best striking defense. So if we scroll a bit further on into the fight, I just want to show you another example of his solid grappling. He's a very high level wrestler like Phil Davis. So if we get to this point in the fight here, any minute now you're going to see Davis shoot another takedown attempt, and you'll see Davis again do a really good job of working his way back to his feet once he's been taken down. So it's going to come up any second now. And there you kind of see it again, guys. Just play that, just some little weakness in his striking. Notice how when Vassell throws this left straight, right straight combo here, notice how he comes forward like this with his chin just exposed. He's like this. His chin, there's just no footwork, there's no head movement, he's not slipping to the side, he's not dropping his shoulders. You know, he could easily walk onto a big counter. Watch this, guys, he's coming up any second now as he comes forward, throws his lazy, you know, it's kind of like a right-left combo. Just one more time so you can see it. You can imagine if someone were to really plant their feet and sit down and time a counter, Vassell's head is just a stationary target. It's very hittable. You know, here it is. You know, the thing with what Vassell's done there is he didn't really fully commit to that right or left hand combination, and even if they would have landed, they wouldn't have done any damage. They're really just pouring shots, so that those strikes aren't really achieving that much. But what they are doing is putting him at risk of being knocked out, where he's putting his chin out to be hit. But here you can see Davis with a nice level change, goes right to the full body lock and drags Vassell to the ground. Looks to take Vassell's back here, but you'll see Vassell do a really good job again of not allowing Davis to establish a position, not allowing Davis to control his body. Notice how Vassell's fighting hands here, preventing Davis from connecting his hands together, and then you see Vassell explode back to his feet, which is very, very nice. Not many guys have been able to do that with Phil Davis in a dominant position. We've seen Phil Davis wet blanket people and totally dominate them, and Vassell showing off his strong grappling skills there, not accepting bottom position, quickly getting back to his feet. And here you can see him, you know, with Davis chipping away at him in the clinch. He's gone to the 2 overhooks, and he's making it very difficult for Davis to connect his hands together on that full body lock and complete another takedown. You know, the full body lock is how Davis likes to drag guys to the ground, and Vassell's not letting him get there. Fighting hard for underhooks here. He's got the underhook on the left side. Now Vassell's actually the one with control of Davis's body, and you can see him every now and again. He's creating scrambles so that he can fish for the underhook on the right side so he can get his back off the cage. Eventually Vassell does get that right underhook, and he's able to circle his back off the cage and get himself out of danger. So, you know, brilliant stuff from Vassell. Very, very good grappling defense. Very, very nice indeed. But it's not just grappling defense where Vassell's good. He's actually good offensively as well. You'll see that in a moment. He actually gets a rare takedown on Phil Davis. There are very few guys that have been able to take Phil Davis down and control him on the ground. And even though Vassell's not able to secure any grappling control, here you can see him shooting on a really nice body lock, drag Davis to the ground, and briefly establish a dominant position with a little bit of back control. But as we know, Davis is a very, very strong grappler, and he's able to pop back to his feet. Davis almost ended up on the bottom there, but I think Davis manages to get himself out of trouble quite quickly here. Actually, Vassell ends up getting another brief takedown on Davis, although can't establish position. So just wanted to show you a little bit of what Vassell brings to the table. Very strong grappler for a guy that's so tall, and also for a British fighter. But I also want to show you, one of his weaknesses, which is his striking defense. We've touched on a little bit already, but that was his downfall in this fight, because Phil Davis in the third round, very early on in the third round, times a very, very nice head kick, which is coming up any second here. And because, Vassell doesn't use much head movement, he's quite slow, his head's a stationary target. Phil Davis lands the head kick flush, the head kick clean, head kick hard, and completely puts him away, which is coming up any second here. Again, there you kind of saw it. Vassell reaching with that left hand, that left straight. Davis actually did count him there. Watch, counters him with the right straight. Davis didn't really have the power to hurt him with boxing, with his punches, but someone that really sits down on their shots would be able to land very, very hard shots on very hard punches on Vassell and potentially knock him out. I'm not sure exactly when the head kick KO comes. Skip ahead a little bit, it's any second now. Vassell finally gets punished for his poor striking defense here, doesn't move his head and eats a flush head kick, and he is out. That is a bad knockout. So that is basically Vassell in a nutshell, guys. So where does that leave us contemplating this fight from a betting perspective? So the way I look at this fight is, it's tough. It is tough. Let's take a look at the odds. So the current average odds available on Moldavsky are 1.72, which is minus 139, giving him an implied probability of 58%. Now, in order to gain any value here, you'd have to give Moldavsky around about a 65% chance of winning. Now, based on the fact that Vassell's got a size advantage here, he outweighs him by 10 pounds. He's also a bit taller. Based on the fact that, in my opinion, Vassell's the stronger grappler, and based on the fact that, at heavyweight he could carry a lot more knockout power. His cardio might be better, he just might be more full of energy, being a bigger guy, not having to cut all that weight to get down to 205. I really do think Moldavsky is a bit of a risk. I wouldn't personally bet on him, because with Moldavsky, he's not particularly dangerous standing. We've seen him fight some really low-level guys like Carl Suman-Tufa, Ernest James, and Simon Bazor. Amir Alekbari. He hasn't been able to get any of them out of there. He beat Ernest James by via TKO, but 4 of his last 5 fights have gone the distance. Not that dangerous standing, to be honest with you. And of course, he's going to be giving up a bit of reach and a bit of size, which will make it a little bit harder for him to close the distance, get into boxing range and land a big shot on Vassell. And his offensive wrestling isn't great. So, we know Phil Davis is an extremely high-level wrestler, NCAA Division 1 level wrestler. If Phil Davis couldn't take Vassell down and hold him down, it's unlikely that Moldavsky's going to be able to. So don't really see any areas in this fight where Moldavsky has an advantage, to be honest with you. So betting him as a favourite doesn't interest me. Now, I've got to be honest with you, I am a little bit interested in betting on Vassell. So his average odds currently around about 2.20, giving him an implied probability of 45%. Now, what I'm going to say is that I'm not going to bet Vassell at these odds, just because his striking defense isn't great, and we don't know what his cardio is going to look like at heavyweight. To gain value here, you'd have to see this as a 50-50 fight, and I'm not sure I would stretch to that much. With Vassell's chin not being great, with his cardio potentially being worse at heavyweight, and with Moldavsky having good cardio, being a tough Russian, good chin, well-rounded, reasonably good everywhere. Like I say, I need the love bets. I need to get a good amount of value on them. So I'm not going to bet Vassell at these odds just because there's not enough value in it for me. But what I would say is that we see a lot of line movement on these Bellator events. we see the odds jump around a lot on Bellator cards, just simply because the liquidity on Bellator, the total amount of money bet on Bellator as a betting market is very low, so it doesn't take much money to move the odds at all. So on fight day, in the few hours leading up to fights, we tend to see the odds move a lot. So as it stands, I wouldn't recommend a bet on either of these guys, or on any of these fighters. But what I would say is keep a close eye on these odds. We're now around, like I say, 22 hours from the start of the event. Keep an eye on how these odds move, because if the odds on Karakhanyan start to improve to around 4.0, if people start checking Sanchez into parlays and stuff, all these wiki cappers, all these guys that just bet fights based on win-loss records, if they see Emmanuel Sanchez has already beaten Karakhanyan, they may throw Sanchez into parlays, into accumulators, which may improve the odds on Karakhanyan. So if his odds improve to 4.0, 4.20, something like that, he may be worth a bet, even though he's taken the fight on short notice. And what I would say is that even though I don't feel comfortable betting Vassell at these odds, because there's just not enough juice in the odds for me, I need to feel like I'm getting a good deal, need to feel like the risk is worth the reward. If Vassell's odds did improve up to 2.40 or up to 2.50, I would definitely consider betting him, and it could happen because, like I say again, wiki cappers will look at this, they'll see a young Russian guy, trains at Fedor's gym, you got on a 2-fight win streak. They'll look at Vassell, 2-fight losing streak. These wiki cappers, they don't really know much about MMA. They'll just go off win-loss records. So we could see the odds jump about quite a bit and present betting opportunities. I've got my eye on Vassell and Karakhanyan. I don't love them at the current odds, but that might change. So that is it for this video, guys. I'm going to go to bed now because I am fucking tired, and then I'm going to wake up and I am going to jump right into KSW 47 research, and I'll hopefully be able to find some bets for KSW tomorrow. I've also got a couple fights left to research on UFC Nashville, so I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you want me to produce more videos this week, potentially for KSW 47 or part 4 of the UFC Nashville series of betting videos, then hit the thumbs up button below, and please also subscribe and leave a comment. It would help the channel grow. I'd really appreciate it. But before I fall asleep, because I'm feeling fucking sleepy now, it's 25 minutes past 5, I'm gonna hit the sack. So night, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care, bye.